which player is going to be bringing it today. In the northeast position, we have the blue Zerg player. Fan favorite, crowd favorite, it is Scarlett.
And down in the bottom left-hand side of the map, the red Protoss player no longer showing her cat camera. Instead, it is actually Nina. Team X on. I could be mistaken about this, Nate, but I actually think this might be the first or like second time that it wasn't just literally the camera on the cat for Nina, which I always thought was fun.
It's hard to control the pets, you know. I think our producer, who's not on today, she pretty much asks me every single day, because when we're doing our warm-ups and stuff in the morning, I have my door open and the dog is always coming in, and he literally climbs on me during rehearsals, unplugs my headphones, hits my microphone, puts weird noises, and I'm like, all right, Lou, I'm gonna lock you out of the room because I can't have this happen in the middle of a game, right? It'd be incredibly unprofessional if my dog jumped on me, or I couldn't hear you during a big fight because my headphones were unplugged, right? And then, but you know, she's like, it's okay, please bring out the dog. And I'm like, I would absolutely love to, but I just have this awful fear of, I don't know, I just don't want to do a bad job because I'm trying to do something funny, you know what I mean? I'm trying to control the variables. My point is, animals are free spirits. And just like I can't control that crazy beast, Nina cannot force the cat to sit there and hang out the entire time that she is playing in this tournament. You know, you got to let them roam. You got to let them do their thing. Now, speaking of, we do have a pylon, or was it just the probe still up on the north side? Okay, it's just the probe, but I'm wondering if we're going to see a pylon start as this cybernetic score finishes, but I think the tech would have already need to be ready to go, right?
Yeah, because usually if it is going to be like a proxy Stargate or something, you'll have the pylon finishing up around the time the cybercore finishes, which is what you were talking about, right? So it is going to be a Stargate back at home. I actually still don't hate just having the probe out over here, because the Adept is going to be popping on out. That will be able to get potentially some early scouting information, but sometimes we do see Protoss players hanging around with their first Adept and waiting for the second Adept before they really start poking on too far out, just because, you know, sometimes the Lings make their way around the first Adept, and then you have to deal with Lings inside your main base, so you actually see exactly that. So the probe is maybe a nice opportunity to get a scout out early, but as I say all that, that probe just gonna be chilling up in the north corner, not actually worried about getting any sort of early scout. Okay.
Yeah, I'm curious. I don't want to dive too deep on this because I'm going to try to show some respect for the fans in the chat that have lives and are busy people. But there were some interesting strategies in the GSL last night. Like I said, I'm not going to go into any details, promise. But I was just curious if we were going to see anything like what we saw last night out of Nina. Don't know if she was like watching that. It's not uncommon for when a cool build gets used or something like that, that we see interesting follow-ups and other ways that other players try to put their own spin on it. But regardless, whether or not we head down that road, we do have the Adept check that third. On its own, you can't really do anything. You were talking about it, Fear Dragon, right? Lots of players try to wait for the second Adept. You kind of need two together to really get the job done. And now we know that this is going to be Oracle Adept. Is that the plan? Phoenix to kill the Overlords, Oracles, and then use that gateway to build a ton of Adepts on the north side?
That is definitely what I'm feeling, at least. I'm still always ready to see like that things are going to be something completely different over here, because Nina, again, she has her own play style in a lot of these games. So it's always possible it's going to be something else, but I think that definitely is what makes the most sense here, especially with the double Adept opening or triple Adept opening now that we actually have out. So it's just going to be building up that Adept count. Starts up yet another Adept or two over here. And, well, with warp gate done, those Adepts, I guess they're doing a little bit of a slow warp in there, but look it out. We're going to end up seeing how Scarlett is going to try and react to this as she tries to just get some information about it. Right now, we do have a Baneling Nest on the way. Layers getting started up, a handful of Lings coming on out, but this is all just to deal with regular old Adepts. Of course, there's like a Spore Crawler or two here, but this isn't really the full setup you need to deal with Adept plus a bunch of Oracles diving in.
Yeah, you know, at the same time, though, Nina kind of pumped the brakes on the production, didn't she? Like, there's only 4 Adepts.
Yeah, there's only 3 gates
coming from the top side. But there's only 3 gateways, and there's only 2 Oracles. This is like, this kind of seems like you want to make the Zerg think they're doing a crazy amount of stuff, but with no glaives? Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, this attack gets cleaned up, you know? This was like vanilla ice cream with no toppings or anything at all on it. Like, can it be good? Yes. But you better be buying top shelf ice cream if you're eating it with nothing else, you know what I mean?
No, I'm definitely with you on that. And so far, this has just really not worked out super duper well for Nina. But, you know, having a couple of those adepts still get at least recalled back home means that she'll have some availability of units to make sure the Lynx just can't surround and kill off the third base. Although 2 adepts over at the Zelnaga Wash are going to be vulnerable, but the oracles backing them up will keep them alive. We see 2 more adepts. Oh boy, getting caught by these Lynx. I mean, these are just really, really nice snags here for Scarlett.
Yeah, but this is what I'm talking about, though, is this build isn't overloaded in any direction. There's not really a clear path to where this build leads that brings us to a victory scenario. And maybe it's just going to take a little while to get there. We do have an Immortal coming out, another shield battery. I think the Forge and the Twilight are done, too. But I'm not 100% sure what the direction is supposed to be. Is it going to be like a take the third, try to squeeze the fourth early, go carriers? Is this a now we're going to go to Charge Lot Archon? I'm really not sure. And these Zerglings have done a really good job of kind of getting around the map. Scarlett's got a lot of information available to her and should be feeling pretty good in this situation.
Blink and Templar Archives, because I actually saw Nina started up Charge for a moment, canceled it, went to Blink, and then started Templar Archives. So, I mean, this can work, but it is gonna be a bit tough, I feel like, versus such a Hydra-heavy composition. Because usually, like, the charge lots can try and buffer a lot, and then you can get some big storms off. The Immortals also add a lot of tankability and firepower and everything, but the Blink Stalkers definitely, they have a hard time holding up versus Lings and Hydras in pure, just raw, large numbers here. So I feel like it's gonna be a lot of really important control coming out here from Nina that'll make this work.
Yeah, it's going to be hard, though, right? Scarlett has a lot of units coming out. That's a lot of Hydralisks. And we don't have Storm yet. We don't really have anything, to be honest. It's like a handful of Zealots that don't have charge because she's going for the Blink and some force fields with the Immortals.
Yeah.
But I suppose if Scarlett doesn't attack Nina anytime soon, she'll be fine. At least they get Storm. And then that will give some of the buffer ability. And then the next big problem to solve is going to be the lurkers, which I don't know, man. When you get enough lurkers on the map, if the Zerg hasn't taken any serious damage, it looks cracked, man. But
yeah.
Okay, there it is, Fleet Beacon. So the plan is survive until you can get carriers, I guess. That's the new mission objective. It just popped up, right? If this was our little campaign going on.
You know, I would say that, but we actually have a lot more gateways being added on. I actually think that Fleet Beacon might just be for the mothership. I think this is because, you know, there's like definitely the carrier transition you're eventually thinking about with a Fleet Beacon, but then there's also those Protoss players that feel like, okay, just get a really strong ground army and get up the mothership. All right, now we have the Stargates being added on, so I think it's going to be a slightly slower transition over to that, but I think that Nina's going to want to be able to do something with that ground force as Oracles are at least keep an eye out on the Hydras and the Lurker count continuing to grow. And yeah, getting off that fourth base is going to be the biggest thing here for Nina and keeping it safe.
Tempests. That's interesting, right? I mean, Tempests are not necessarily... Man, I don't know. Tempests are like... Rotterdam and I had a good conversation about Tempests on this map, actually, in a somewhat similar scenario a few days ago about how they can kind of shoot from really far away, which is somewhat nice, but they're very vulnerable targets. And Tempests are not army killers, right? They chip away. The Tempest is like the pickaxe of the Protoss arsenal. It's very good at chipping away at something, and eventually it'll break anything with that range. But on its own, it's not going to really kill the whole army. Really good grab on the first 3 lurkers. Oh my god, that was very nice.
Yeah, there are a lot of Immortals in this army over here for Nina, and just really good control there with the force fields and also getting the storms off. Like the multiple spellcasters being used at the same time. Definitely easier said than done, but Banelings come rolling on in. Prepared for that. With how many Banelings are committed to that, only 6 workers going down. Nina is doing a great job with the control, but she is going to need to keep it up at least until those Tempests pop out. Because then the Tempest, they don't have to worry about Vipers or anything right now. That's not going to be the concern just yet. Those Tempests can pick away at these Lurkers.
Yeah, use the Oracle Revelation, get the Tempest shooting. Oh my god. Someone's like, yeah, I heard Queens were good, but can they stop 3 Tempests from killing your Lurkers?
All of those Zealots there are actually just going to get choked up by the wall, so they can't keep her spin the fight. That's pretty funny, but okay. You know, Scarlett, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm ready to be proven wrong, but I'm not sure if this one works out for you.
No, I mean, here's the thing, though. The whole army kind of moved to deal with that big Hydra push on the northwest side. And like I said, Tempests are pickaxes. They're not going to cut the whole army down immediately. It takes time. And Scarlett's decision was like, okay, there's 3 Tempests shooting my dudes. Sure, I'm just going to move all of them at once because the Tempests don't actually do some weird, crazy damage. They have decent burst damage, really good range, but yeah, 3 Tempests weren't going to kill all those Lurkers before they killed the Nexus. That was just never going to be possible.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I really thought, like, I guess I missed or saw the production tab. I really thought 3 more Tempests were about to pop, and I still thought there were all those Zealots that moved over to this 3rd base, but those got picked off, and now we end up having a very awkward situation where Nina is back down to 3 bases, and will be able to defend this 3rd base, but it's definitely taken some damage here and there. Now has Lurkers set up at the choke point of that natural expansion. A lot of Hydras on the way, a double Spire being added on. Scarlett's in firm control of this game now.
Yeah, this is the ideal scenario. You've encroached upon the natural of the Protoss. The 4th base was obliterated. Yes, the Tempest can support from afar, but as stated, they are not army killers. It takes forever. They're big, juicy targets, and Nina taps out. Scarlett goes up 1-0.
Nate, I honestly feel like the Tempest transition, the quick Tempest transition, may have been like a bit of a I don't know if I want to call it a misread, but it feels as though Nina was playing to Scarlett's reputation as being someone that just loves going to the ultra hyper late game of ZVP, as she has done versus me many a time now. And she loves getting up into that big static defense Viper setup and everything. And I really feel like Nina, like if Scarlett was playing more defensive and playing a lot more of that static defense, let's take this to the 45-minute stage of the game. If Scarlett had been doing that, I actually feel like, you know, Nina, I don't hate that transition to Tempest. I don't hate the timing of all this, but that just wasn't what was happening. So I feel like Nina maybe playing a little bit more, too much to the reputation. I'm not sure if that's 100% the case, but like that's at least what it felt like to me.
Yeah, I don't know. Just that whole opening had me kind of off, right? We had the probe went up top really early to hide. Only ended up having, what, 4 depths warped in there? Only 2 oracles. It was the type of attack that could never do real damage, but she still went for it anyway.
Yeah,
and the only way the only way that 8 adepts with no upgrades and 2 oracles like do something to a Zerg at the 8-minute mark is if they have literally gone up to 100 drones and nothing else. And and that's like not even really building a lot of queens. So I wish that Nina would have maybe just committed pretty seriously to that. But it's a hard call to make because she may have seen something that we didn't notice that made her feel like she couldn't do a big adept attack, and we'll just have to see. It's going to be a little bit getting into this game. I've noticed we're in the loading screen for game 2, but I've noticed that the race is wrong for one of the players. I'm not going to say which one, but we just probably going to have to restart this one as soon as it loads in. So another couple cheeky minutes of us talking nonsense. Fear Dragon. Random question. What's your answer?
Random question. What's your answer?
Yeah.
The question is random question?
Yeah.
Well, I think that random players are despicable. Personally, Nathaniel.
Wow. They cheat by not making what they're going to do in the game known to the other player before the game. Well, that's pretty much the same thing as cheating, Fear Dragon. Excellent point.
I will say, in my league at least, which is definitely not the top league, but you know, around like Masters level, like the bottom of Masters, literally don't trust any random player when they tell you their race. In fact, if they tell you their race, start preparing for the other races most of the time. I'm just saying, statistically, that's my experience. But random players are great. Yeah. Great people. Just don't trust them.
They're great people. You just need to put a lot of effort into scouting all around your own base every single time that you run into them. Very important. Very
My solution has just been, if I cannon rush every single random player, then it doesn't matter what race you are. I'll get my probe over there eventually pretty quickly. So, yeah. Well, regardless, we're not dealing with random players. Now, Scarlett is actually set to Terran. So, we are going to be hopping into this next match on Everdream pretty shortly. I feel like Nina is usually a pretty adaptive player for the most part. Like, not in the sense that she is super duper easy to adapt to like any situation, because I think she does have her stylistic preferences. But I feel like she's definitely the kind of player who will like look at a game and be like, yeah, that didn't really work out. Let me just make these little adjustments, or let me make these little things and I'll be fine.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense, Fear Dragon. Sorry, I was just looking over the lobby stuff. I've been staring at the race icons, the player color icons, making sure, make sure that Scarlett doesn't accidentally set 90% handicap or something like that. That would be awful. You know what I don't understand, Fear Dragon? Why does the handicap option only let you reduce the health of your units? Why can't a bad player use 110% handicap? Why did no one think of this? You know what I mean? These are the questions that haunt me.
Extra?
Yeah. Well, because generally the only thing that the handicap thing does is change the amount of hit points that your units and buildings have. That's the only thing that it does. So lowering the handicap kind of breaks the game pretty fast, right?
Yes.
Because all your units die in 1 or 2 hits. But if you're a good player playing someone worse than you, I don't know why you wouldn't want to instead of making all of your units die instantly, just make their units a little bit harder to kill,
Yeah, it's kind of interesting too.
Am I off the rails?
No, I'm actually with you on that, because in reality, I feel like usually it's the higher level player that's going to be more sensitive to their units are different, and it's a lower level player that's going to be a little less sensitive to it. So I do agree, like, it makes more sense. Change the lower level players' units more instead of the higher level players' units. But okay.
Yeah.
Regardless, guys, we are finally here in game number 2 as we start up in the top right-hand corner of the map. Top of Team Exxon's wonderful Protoss player in the red. It is Nina.
And spawning in the bottom left, we have the blue Zerg player currently leading the series 1-0. She is Scarlett.
Well, Scarlett handling that last game pretty well. Everdream can be, I mean, I'm about to pull a Tasteless here. I was going to be like, it could be a short game, could be a long game, Nathaniel, could be a middle-sized game, but I do feel like usually when I see Scarlett on this map, it's like she does go very hard on cheese, or she just plays and says, well, hope you use the restroom and everything before this match.
Fear Dragon, what's your favorite
minutes?
The Fear Dragon, what's your favorite side-scrolling Castlevania game?
I have not played a single Castlevania game.
Okay, well, you can't do the Tasteless thing then. I tried. Okay, we made our swing at it, but we can't talk about games that were played on 4-bit consoles. We'll never be able to match that, man.
4-bit. Fun fact, by the way. So this is only the people who even know like what 8-bit is and how 8-bits make a byte and everything. Fun little computer science lesson. 8-bits didn't by default always make up a full byte. There was actually a time where that was in contention and different people had models. Some people said 4 bits would make a byte. Some people said
this like
6.
Tesla versus Jefferson? Is that what we're heading into territory now?
It's not that old, but Edison, I think it was like the 70s or the 60s or something, somewhere around that time. And that blew my mind. I always thought that was very interesting.
Yeah. Well, I remember when there were still arguments about whether cartridges were better than discs. And I'm pretty sure we all settled that solid media is a million times better. It's just, what was it? A little bit more expensive in certain scenarios. I think that's why we still have disc-based media to some degree, right? It's a little bit easier to just mass print them all out. There you go. Some fun tech discussions.
Yeah. All right. Well, this game is finally kind of showing its rear head and showing where it's going to be heading. As we do have a Stargate on the way here for Nina. We'll see what the follow-up is, but is going to be a couple of those early adepts coming on out, similar to the last game. And in a lot of ways, this should look pretty much the same to Scarlett as the last game, obviously without a proxy gateway that eventually did get scattered up by Scarlett. So maybe Nina's been thinking about, like with that last game and that setup, it looked a bit strange, but it's kind of playing into the longer term best of 5 series, make build look one way, and then do something that looks very similar, but is actually quite different. So I'm interested to see where this game goes for Nina.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is we're not going to have, it looks like 8 adepts just kind of die in the natural without killing anything. So
yeah,
that's already got my confidence level a little bit higher up. 3 adept opening is totally fine. Oracle into Phoenix. So wants that opportunity to catch Scarlett off guard, but I think Zerg players around the world have 3 minutes and like 40 seconds permanently burned into their brains that they're like, I must have spores done by 4 minutes if I don't want to worry about anything. DTs, oracles, whatever. And this oracle says, oh, I like that. So Nina just comes over and she's like, I'm going to shoot the eggs here because there's nothing here, and maybe the drone will finish and I'll get a kill. And she does get the kill. Oracle still has all of its hit points. So actually, I don't hate that at all. Walks in, tries to get another drone, loses half the hit points. That does hurt a little bit. Okay, the Oracle's pretty much dead now, unfortunately.
Yeah. I actually want to note like how cool it was. The specific larva that Oracle killed, by the way, I think was an Overlord. So Scarlett got into an awkward position where she was like, oh no, I'm actually gonna get supply blocks. So she had to start up like another 4 or 5 Overlords, anticipating that. So now there's plenty of supply to work with, but nice little pickoffs there, considering there weren't a whole lot of other options available. But there we see the layer, the rich horn started up.
As long as you don't immediately need the units to not lose the game, like in that time frame, it's never really bad to build a bunch of Overlords. Like you'll see, it happens at the pro level so often where if you feel even remotely comfortable, you're like, I'm still getting larva, so I'm not actually losing any production, right? Like Zerg production is very hard to be inefficient with in that way, right? That's kind of like the strength of them, is that you can build all that stuff. So like you front load the supply availability, and then once your next 2 or 3 waves of larva come out, then they can all be units, right? And you kind of just take the Overlord question off the board. I think people always like to make memes about, was it a laser for doing that? But actually, it's really not as bad. It's not as bad as it might seem to just crank out Overlords when you have a free moment or two. Like I said, obviously, if you're literally right about to be attacked, then no, that is not the time to do it. But
yeah. Okay, well, we do have +1 missile attack on the way. It looks like Scarlett is really going to actually be committing to making like more than just 1 or 2 roaches, I assume, as roach speed and everything is also going to be coming on up. And there's 7 more Overlords for you, Nate, to back up your point. Scarlett definitely agrees with you there. And we got a robotics bay starting on up for Nina, looking to maybe go into those Colossus to transition out over here. But I also want to just make a quick note, and Nina, I honestly do feel like as much as I love to meme about the Can in his disruptor plays, and I do think the Can does have slightly better disruptor control, Nina used to actually make a bit of a name for herself off of her own disruptor plays back in the day.
Yeah. Oh, Nina's definitely a control-based user. I think that's why we saw the blink before charge last game, even though it didn't really get realized. But Nina's always been incredible with blink stalkers, and would not only do disruptor drops when those got added, but also the Colossus drop versus Terran. Swarm host from Scarlett, though. That is going to be a tricky one to deal with. Swarm hosts, if they're scouted, generally lose a lot of the potential power of what they can do, but the Nidus network's going to go up, and if Nina does not realize what is happening and she gets blindsided, I mean, 1 wave of Locust will just kill a Nexus, cannons around it, batteries around it, all the probes, probably destroy your mortgage and everything like that by the time your army gets over to try and clean them up. Then again, if you catch the Locusts in the middle of the map, or the Swarm host, rather, they can't really do a whole lot of anything, right? They're bad at defense. They can't really chase an army with Locusts. They're strongest when the defending player is defending, right? They're just really, really good at killing in trench positions. And here we go. The first wave is going to come out. There's the battery overcharge, but there is nothing in this game that out DPSs the Locust wave. They're going to be able to punch through the gateway, through that shield heal. The Colossus on the high ground is actually putting in some work to kill the Queens so that the Oracles cannot try to do anything about the Swarm Host, and I actually really like that a lot. This army is really not that strong outside of the Swarm Host without that wave.
Yeah, honestly, like this is actually one of the best starts that I think Nina could have asked for. The Colossus are going to have time to actually build up into higher numbers. The Lings running in, that is going to be a really, really painful situation for Nina, but I think the rest of it has been actually going really, really well. The first wave of Swarmos didn't go after the Nexus, it didn't go after the army all that much. It just killed off a couple of the gateways. So if Nina can get up the second and I believe third Colossus, since there are 2 Robos, oh no, the third Colossus only just got started, but 3 Colossus actually take care of those Locusts really, really quickly. The problem is that third Nexus is finally under fire by all the Roaches. So Scarlett just sacrifices some of the Roaches to take out that Nexus, put Nina in an awkward economical position, and now Nina is effectively forced to go for a big committed attack.
Yeah, and that's the hard part, right? Because you're still on the defensive against the Swarm Host. They are among the most cost-efficient units in the game because of their ability to break down defenses and siege positions. And it's unfortunate that Nina was not able to get into a position where those Stalkers could try to blink on them to clear them out. Swarm Hosts are armored units. They're big chonkers. They die quickly to the power units in StarCraft 2, but if you get caught off guard by them, if you're not able to intercept them on their way to beginning that siege, there's hardly much that you can do against them. And this is a specific case scenario where Scarlett, someone who is very good at utilizing Swarm Hosts, is going to be able to use that to crack this one down. I don't think that there's really much of anything Nina can do in this situation without, especially the third base economy. So this is it's about as bleak as it gets, I'd say, Fear Dragon. It looks very dicey.
I really actually do think, like, I'm not sure where Nina's extra resources are going. I'm assuming there's a very good reason for it, like a big Stalker Warpin or something, but the double Robo, I feel like if she had been able to start up the second and third Colossus a little bit faster, get them there, after that first Locust Wave didn't do as much, as Scarlett's of course can take the 2-0 lead there. I really do feel like if you can get up the Colossus, like you can actually start taking out those Locusts a lot faster. I think maybe you keep your third base alive. Like all these things don't quite snowball as hard, but that's the reality. It doesn't matter about the what ifs at the end of the day, because now we have a situation where Scarlett is up 2-0 in this best of 5, ready to move on to the next round of the losers bracket if she can just win one more map. Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna go to a short break before we resume this series and jump into game number 3. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the DreamHack SC2 Masters.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are here with the DreamHack Masters Fall to bring you more NA StarCraft action. Been a bit of a tough series so far for Nina, but we've got Scarlett leading 2-0 off the back of some Swarm host shenanigans to close out game number 2 for your Dragon.
Very, very tough kind of a style to play against if you're not ready for it. And Scarlett is seriously like one of the biggest, I don't want to say advocates, because it's not necessarily that I think she's saying like this is the best style, but she is one of the biggest users of the Swarm host play styles in ZVP. So she's got a lot of experience with it, and she plays it really, really well. So Nina might have to be worried about that as we move on to our next map, Eternal Empire, another map that you can go for some of those Swarm host shenanigans and everything, but Scarlett has at least been playing this out with a few different play styles now, so we'll see where things go in game number 3. Nina really, really got to make a big turnaround happen over here, and I feel like it's tough for someone who is, I think everyone considers like a very momentum-based player. Nina needs to build momentum in order to win a lot of her series, and right now there is 0. It's a dead stop right now for Nina.
Yeah, definitely riding the struggle bus. We'll see if she can bring it back, ladies and gentlemen. In the bottom left position of Eternal Empire, she is Nina.
And up at the top right-hand side of the map, we have the blue Zerg player representing Team Bravestar. It is Scarlett. Who I'm pretty sure, you know, it's only 6 p.m. or something for Scarlett right now, because, you know, she's back in Canada. She's not in Korea right now, as far as I'm aware. But I feel like somehow she still is always in, like, the most poorly lit room possible. Every time.
Yeah.
Like, it has to still be light outside right now, right?
I mean, you'd think that, but I'm going to tell you something, Fear Dragon. The only reason you guys see a lot of light in my room is because I have a big light. But I think most nerds agree you move into your apartment or your house or whatever, you lower the curtains, and then you never open them. Ever.
Okay, that's
like
true
ever.
And fair, because I actually have not opened my windows in the room I'm in right now, literally once.
Yeah. If I want to see the sun, I go onto my patio. I think that's, you know, or you go to the porch, or you step outside, whatever.
Look at you,
like,
Mr. Fancy Pants, a patio and a porch.
That's right. Well, you know what? It turns out that when you go from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, you know, you can spend half as much and get twice as much for it. So it's, I definitely like where I am right now. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I'm just going to say that San Francisco, it costs $1,500 to buy a bathroom. So, you know.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Speaking of money, both these players getting very, very close to actually getting into some of the big money as well. As I believe we were talking about this before, but, you know, second and third place, both going up to $4,000 in prize money.
Yeah.
So whoever ends up winning this, gonna really start getting into the higher end of things. $3,000 already for 4th place as well. So I think they're both sitting at a really, really nice spot. That plus the EPT points and everything. And the big, big prize at the end of the road, Nathanius, it's gonna be the season final seed. Like, that's only for the top 2 of North America. So I think both of these players definitely want to be able to make it a bit further in, have a chance to face off versus the loser of Neeb and Estrella, and have a shot at that season final seed.
Yeah, that's the big ticket, right? Everybody wants that. I believe you're still going to get money just for qualifying, like from participating in that tournament, even if you get knocked out relatively early. So it's another one of the great parts of the system that we have. Like this whole EPT, DreamHack Masters, the tournament format has been one of my favorite things. You know, we occasionally would get tournaments with fun formats, like very rarely, and all the WCS stuff, you know, everything was always just so, we're just going to try to copy GSL and not be the same as GSL. So it's just worse, right? There's nothing really interesting or unique about it unless you like the players. And not of course taking anything away from their accomplishments, but I really like the group stage format that we have for this. I really like the season format, getting so many games between everybody that by the time we reach this point, we can say, yeah, oh, well, everybody played each other. So we can talk about how that's going to affect the playoff bracket. We can talk about how that's going to affect player strategies. You can't just come in with 2 sharp builds for 2 matchups, get out of your group and be like, yeah, you know, everything's all hunky-dory. No, you have to actually be able to play a wide range of players, a wide range of games. And also shout out, I mean, it's long days for us, and for the fans and the players, but we get full best-of-5 series for the entire playoff bracket, which is also just another incredible thing that allows the players to really take advantage of the opportunity to make big comebacks, right? To take that first map loss or even 2 map losses and then bring it back, or almost bring it back, right? In the case of that Raynor Clem series earlier today. But you don't get the cool stories without that, right? Clem 2-0ing Raynor is cool, but Clem holding on after Raynor comes back from down 0-2 is almost equally as impressive because he had a lot of momentum himself going into that match. And yeah, there you go. That's my little bid for why you guys should love this tournament, because it's awesome, it's original, and it gives you a ton of StarCraft to watch.
Yeah,
I think we're
all solid reasons.
Yeah, I think the rest of the Europe bracket's tomorrow, right? Like,
yep, I mean, NA and EU are both finishing up tomorrow with the players that we saw playing today and the players we're still seeing right now playing. As
I'll be there. I'm excited to watch how that's going to shape up. I'll be right there in chat baiting some nice balance fights. That'll be a good time. That's always a good time, and watching some great StarCraft games. I can't wait to see if Clem takes it all. That would be the dream for me personally. We got the Baneling Nest and the lair finishing up. I've just kind of had my eye on this tech situation. The lair is done. Are we just going to have another infestation pit? Please no.
Well, no, I think we're gonna have a Spire. Yeah, there's a Spire because we do have the melee upgrade coming on out. So,
I think I've had enough swarm hosts for the day.
Yeah, I think Scarlett is good about like mixing in builds and stuff, and she's really good at identifying particular players and saying like, okay, I think you just died at the swarm host play every single game versus I need to just stay a little bit unpredictable here. And well, the Hussein Phoenix is gonna come in and scouts out that Spire. So immediately we have a Phoenix starting on up, and it's gonna be the second Phoenix that's out because the first Phoenix didn't end up dying or anything, even though it did dive pretty far for the Overlord. And I think, yeah, Scarlett is just gonna add on the Hydra Den after having that scouted so quickly. Just gonna say, yeah, it's gonna be like a light commitment to any of those mutas that might come on out. If any, actually.
Well, sometimes it's a bait play too, right? You wanna just have that. The thing about Aspire is that it demands attention, and it's kind of like a Dark Shrine. Just because you build it doesn't really mean that it needs to be heavily used to achieve value. Or, you know,
its existence does damage. Yeah.
Exactly. It's kind of like, you know, it's like a Terran who has. I don't know why I was gonna go for this comparison, but I'm like, you know, it's like when you know that a Terran has nukes, and you're like, you know, it doesn't. If you see the Ghost Academy, you're thinking about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like most Terrans don't go for nukes in games, I guess is what I mean to say. But when you know that they have ghosts, it becomes something in the back of your mind. Kind of like a muta switch.
This is going to go into an interesting place because the robotics phase now finished up. We're going to be able to kill off a handful of these. Oh, kind of like that. Killing off a bunch of these Lings, using the Phoenix to lift up the Adepts and save them from the ground damage. I think the Lings are going to come back in for another round. Phoenix do have energy to lift up again, and there it is.
Keep lifting, keep lifting now. I think Scarlett was like, I'm going to put you on tilt, and I'm gonna kill these Adepts. And Nina's like, no. The Hydras, 2 Hydralisks even came out to try to get them too. Oh, that's pretty funny.
That's amazing. Okay, so I do think that there's this little window here that Nina's gonna try and hit with. Okay, well, the disruptor's being made. I really thought that this was going to end up being both of the Robos producing up to 3 Colossus, and then trying to hit a nice little timing here where there's basically just like a Hydra composition. Because at this point, Nina knows, all right, it's Hydras, right? Like the Phoenix are not actually gonna need to be used against a bunch of mutas right now. But it seems like with the transition straight out to disruptors, while getting a thermal lance, this is real. I actually have a really hard time figuring out what exactly Nina's like move out timing is with this.
Yeah, I actually don't mind a bit of the patience here from her because with the Colossus that's being added, it kind of gives me some M. Canning-esque vibes from the way that we watched him play against Future. And I know that was a Protoss versus Terran, but you know, good amount of Stalkers, good amount of Sentry, couple Colossi to be anchors, and then the Disruptors are the you can't dive on me solution. My concern is always going to be Corruptors.
That's a lot of Corruptors. That's a lot.
There's a lot of Corruptors coming out, and Corruptors are mega tanky. I think part. I think unless Nina adds Archons, there's a high likelihood that the Corruptor will just walk up, kill the Colossus, and back off, right? The Corruptor doesn't need to do anything other than kill the Colossi and then maybe get yeeted into the main to try and like pee on the Nexus or something. But
well, there's that. But I mean, there's also Hive about to finish up, right? And the Spire was done, so you can actually add on the Greater Spire. You can like start thinking about that Broodlord transition against a player who, well, you know,
there's Zergs that still build Broodlords.
People
who still build Broodlords, Fear Dragon?
Yeah, well, only if your opponent doesn't have a bunch of Stargates ready. So
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You make an excellent point. I'm just playing Rummy.
Yeah.
This is a huge attack. Kind of what I was saying though. The Corruptors are just going to walk up and kill the Colossus. Those units are so tanky. Hardly any of them die. And now the only AoE there is the Disruptors. So you need to make sure that you have them available. Or actually, really good force field to keep the Banes out. This is where you want to get that slam dunk Disruptor on the opponent if possible.
+2 weapons means that you one-shot those workers, but only one Baneling making its way in. Only 3 workers
then this
killed.
happens.
Kill on the Nexus would be big over here. Corruptor's even getting microed back, but few Stalkers do get rallied in. Oh, it's like you were saying though, Nate. They're so tanky.
Corruptors are dumb, Fear Dragon. That's my honest opinion. We have a ton of Banelings crashing into that 4th base, though. Good force fields to hold it down. Gets a nice disruptor hit on some of the Hydralisks. But the problem is the Colossus, it's just one. You don't have that big bath of laser beams to shower everything in. So a lot of damage is going to be taken. And I do think the Corruptors are just going to kill this Colossus too. Yep, they grab that. They're going to go on the way out. Now the Stalkers, I do actually really like the aggressiveness here because with the Corruptors getting clamped down on, that Greater Spire that you were talking about is about to finish up. But there's not really, there's only 4 Corruptors on the map. So a pretty huge investment is going to need to be made. It's important to point out, of course, Corruptors are good, but they are very expensive. So if you throw them away in that manner, that's where you start to see the impact come in because there's not really a lot of gas in the bank for Scarlett. So Nina's moving with a very ground-based army. There's a lot of Hydras, there's a lot of Banelings, but we don't really have to think about Broodlords for a little bit until this army at least gets cleaned up. But a huge flank. Oh, that Disruptor shot on the north side was actually pretty gnarly. Banelings are going to come crashing into the Stalkers, trying to blink away from them, let them hit the Immortal. But Fear Dragon, it does warm my heart to see the Banelings hit that Protoss army and not instantly kill it. So really well done, actually, by Nina there. Despite this massive supply discrepancy, she is still hanging tough. And you know what? The 4th base did not actually die. Some probes did, but at the very least, having the Nexus means you can replace them a little bit faster. And then I look at the natural and I'm like, yeah. So 4 Broodlords. There were 4 Corruptors and 4 Broods will be made. 5 extra Corruptors are going to get added. But this is not an unreasonable amount to deal with, even with just Stalkers, especially for Nina.
Oh, losing all those Disruptors really hurt. I feel like the chances, if those Disruptors have been able to stay alive, I feel like Nina's able to maybe push in and do something there. But now on the economy that Nina's got, it's so tough. You can see Scarlett's answer is just, I'm just gonna pull back, make a lot of Banelings over here, get ready for some counterattacks in case I need them, add on some Broodlords, and what are you gonna do about it? You don't actually have the economy to deal with a Broodlord transition at this point.
Yeah, once that Broodlord count gets up into those higher numbers, that's where it becomes really complicated. Because in low numbers, the Stalkers will always be able to focus fire them down. But at some point, the Broodlord's damage combined with, having stuff like Banelings underneath them becomes a problem. Kill some of those Banes. Scarlett's very low on gas bank-wise. So this, if Nina could clear this army and maintain 150 plus supply, she has to have over 150 by the time the fight's over. And I would say maybe on the low end on that, but one of the Broodlords gets picked off, but that's where it gets tricky, right? Because the Banes are right there. Oh, they're gonna go for the sandwich! And the Banes don't instantly kill everything, but they do give that splash damage that softens the rest of the army up for the Corruptors, for the Hydralisks coming in to clean up what is left. And there is the GG. Good luck out of Nina. Scarlett takes the series 3-0.
Well done by Scarlett. Really a masterclass act there, showcasing why she is still considered